Hi everybody, Kat here. Welcome to my channel. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Trooping of the Color Day. We just witnessed that live. All the pageantry, rich history, lore, mythology surrounding the royal family. That's what's quite interesting. But today I wanted to talk about Princess Diana. Talk about lore, myth, and history. Over 25 years after her death, she is still considered one of the most popular royals. Her contribution to the royal family was, you can't even quantify it. And she has become somewhat of a mythical creature over this time. There's a lot of almost mythology surrounding Diana herself. She was an aristocrat by birth. Her family, the Spencers, had been close associates to the royal families. Going back centuries, they served kings and queens, and Diana is said to carry the bloodline of the ancient Merovingian sect. She carries the bloodline of all the kings and queens of England going back centuries. And some would say that this is why the royal family wanted to bring her in. They needed the bloodline of all the English king and queens because, of course, the royal family's bloodline is primarily German. Saxe-Coburg-Gotha is their given derivation of their name, only changed after World War I to the Windsors. So they needed her. They brought her in. She was aristocratic and always grew up close to, she grew up on the Sandringham estate until her father inherited Althorp and they moved there. So she was closely associated with the royals from the time of her birth. But this is one thing, talk about your myth and ritual, one thing that the royal family and other elites take very seriously is the bloodlines. Well, who were the Merovingians? They occupied ancient ground where Paris now stands. The ancient city of Paris. They worshipped Roman gods. One of their principal deities, in fact, very spookily, was the goddess Diana, goddess of the hunt, goddess of the moon, goddess of childbirth and forest animals. She covered a lot of ground. She was something to all people, not so much different than Diana of our day. She appealed to everyone. Well, and Diana, the goddess Diana, had an adversary. Hecate is, I think, how you pronounce it, Hecate, was the Roman sort of evil, malevolent counterpart to the goddess Diana. And Hecate was the goddess of the crossroads, of change. So, all of this interesting history is quite something. And what the Merovingians did in ancient France, the way that they would celebrate and worship, they worshiped Diana, the goddess, in tree groves, near water, in this case on the banks of the ancient river Seine, in ancient Paris. What is now central Paris was the original ancient Paris on the banks of the Seine, and they did their worshipping in underground chambers. They held their sacrifices to the Princess Diana, underground chambers on the banks of the Seine, in the middle of ancient Paris. Now, as with a lot of ancient cultures, they did celebrate, they did have a specific time of year that they celebrated their goddess. And this is when they would have their celebrations and their sacrifices. Now, in the ancient world, they would hold their celebrations round about the middle of August. Interesting enough. And the celebration was called Nemoralia, Nemoralia. That was their celebration of the goddess Diana, where they would celebrate in tree groves. And they would culminate the celebratory period in August with a ritual human sacrifice in an underground chamber on the bank of the Seine. And isn't it interesting? Some investigators will tell you, some investigators out there will tell you that Diana's accident in France, in Paris, in the Pont d'Alma tunnel, wasn't an accident. It was an ancient ritual sacrificial killing by secret societies. And everybody knew. Everybody knew. And you say, that sounds crazy. People don't do that anymore. That's crazy talk. But let's just entertain it for a moment, entertain that thought, and look at some of the information, some of the reasoning that these investigators will tell you. The Pont d'Alma tunnel is an underground chamber on the banks of the Seine. And if you overlay a map of ancient Paris, this is the spot where the Merovingians did their sacrifices in underground tunnels, underground chambers on the banks of the Seine. And don't you know that very spot at Pont d'Alma today is in the middle of a grid of crossroads. Bring in Hecate, the adversary to the goddess Diana. Very, very interesting. But you say, well, that could be an ancient, but it doesn't make sense. Investigators will tell you that after the accident, and as we know, Diana in the ambulance wasn't moved to the hospital for an hour and a half. The investigators will tell you that to complete the ritual sacrifice, she had to die in that tunnel, and that is precisely why, precisely why the ambulance stayed in the tunnel. Now, it still sounds far out. Does this stuff still happen? There's many, many investigators that'll tell you that among the elite, among the rulers, among religions, among the secret societies, that these kind of cultish practices happen to this day. So could it be a possibility? Could Diana's death in Paris be more than what it seems? Could it be a ritual sacrifice to the ancient gods to satisfy one of their aims? Well, if you still haven't made up your mind, investigators will tell you as well. You only have to look at how Diana was interred to know that it was indeed a ritual, and everybody knew. Diana was interred on an island surrounded by water, on the banks of water, in a tree grove where the ancient Diana was worshipped. And if that's not enough, look at her crypt. That's a Roman temple. That's a Roman temple to the goddess Diana. So could it be? Could it be there's much more to her accident in Paris than we may ever know? Just might be. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a like, share, and leave me a comment. Have a great day, everybody. Okay.